I feel like I'm going to be all over the place in this recording, but, I feel like that's very me, so hopefully you can ride the waves. So we're in March. We are a couple days out from the eclipse on 3/3 at 3:33 in the morning. In Virgo, the full moon. And the energy that I was getting for March is like very much do not conquer chaos. Like don't try to conquer the chaos, but to really find peace. Have balance within. And there's fresh energy here, but it's also like don't put the cart before the horse, okay? So also like letting go, but you can kind of feel the ambition like coming to the surface. What's been really crazy and amazing was while I was creating my monthly newsletter, which I just kind of go over the energetics of the month. I have like a little part of it called flower magic, and each month a flower or herb comes to me, and it just amazes me how every time it is so like the message is so true to like what the energies of the month are. But Iris came to me, and Iris is also a goddess, and I just have been like blown away by what I've been getting. And this is very multi-leveled. It's layered. I want to make it as simple as possible, but also there's like a lot here. And maybe I'm like tripping out. I did not have my microphone plugged in, and I feel like that always makes such a difference. So hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. Anyway, the goddess Iris came to me, and I was saying that I feel like maybe I'm tripping out. Like maybe I'm thinking that people won't be able to catch up with like my wild thoughts and like the rabbit holes that I'm going down. But I feel like, no, we'll be okay. We can hang in there, right? So I just want to go over I want to go over actually like her origin and her story. And I love doing with the goddesses because I think there's a story that we're given, but I think that there's much more to it. And this is a place where I can really go that deep. If you're subscribed to my Substack, it's going to be the place where I like really go over the energies of the now, what Iris is kind of here to do in a simple way. And then I also offer ways to work with her throughout the month. That can be, you can kind of have that at the Substack level, but here is where we can kind of get into like the nitty gritty of like a deep dive. You know what I mean? Like really the deep dive of like what she's here to do and what she is and what's happening and all these other maybe avenues that I feel like taking. My dog is sitting right behind me. I have a pillow here so I can just kind of like be comfortable. And she just like, let's see, is she going to make her debut? What, Josie, what are you doing? Hi. She's so little, she just tucks herself right back there. So, okay. Anyway. Okay, so the month of March, the energy is like, and this is what I also appreciate about March. Like I wrote in my newsletter, like I get really excited in March because you can kind of feel the energy shifting, like spring is starting to come alive, but I feel like sometimes we can get a little ahead of ourselves, especially with I love playing in my garden, and it's like, oh, bitch, do not even. We've learned so many times, right? And so this feels like we really need to come back to the foundations of things, like starting from the very beginning. And I will say, I have the MO of definitely putting the cart before the horse. Like even if I'm like, oh, I want to be healthier, I do everything all at once and I completely overwhelm my system, and then I crash, and then I'm like, what happened? It didn't work. Instead of being able to go really slow. I've been doing a lot of fascia work and nervous system work, And this last month specifically, I have honed it down to doing 2 or 3 things almost every single day. And those are my foundations. One of them is being breath work. I am not moving on until that feels like natural to me, right? Like I'm really building the foundation, which really feels like what March is about, okay? And that would make sense because of Virgo being in the full moon, right? It's like really about rituals and routines and organization. Okay. Let's get into Iris. And I'm not really going to talk too much about, I guess, her story, because she was considered a minor god, a minor goddess. She wasn't one of the big Olympian gods or goddesses. And I am going to throw this out here too, because this is really my place where I can just be full on. And I thought, I've always been obsessed with the Olympian gods ever since I was a young child. I don't know if we have any like Clash of the Titan fans out there, like the original. I think it was 78? Maybe it was the early 80s, but I for some reason feel like it was the 70s. That was like one of my favorite movies, and I loved Medusa in that movie. Like that's when I fell in love with Medusa. And I used to say to my mom and dad, I'm like, I think the Olympian gods were aliens. And I can do a whole other deep dive on that some other time, but it's just a whole thing for me. Not all of them. I think the Titans were actually the original, like, gatekeepers of the earth, okay? I digress. Okay, so Iris is a Greek goddess of the rainbow, but she's also, it's considered like she's the messenger of the gods. So she was the one who would basically work with the mortals and then go back to the gods and deliver the messages. So if like the mortals are trying to communicate to the gods, like Zeus or Hera, they would actually, she would go, okay, I've got the message and I'll give them, right? I'll give them to the big gods, okay? And she is known for swift movements and moving swiftly between the realms. So between the divine and the mortal realms, also heaven and earth. Also, the way she came to me was the conscious subconscious. So the subconscious is actually like the heavenly realm, because the subconscious to me is the void, you know. Not only is it where things are like stored, you know, in our brain, but it's also where sometimes our dreams and the void can exist. So I digress. The subconscious, conscious mind. She is said to have these amazing golden wings, and how appropriate. Like I'm wearing like a golden sweater today. So she has these amazing golden wings. It's also said that she can like light up dark caverns, you know, and that seems very powerful to me. I do so much work with these goddesses, and all of the work is always about bringing us back into our own power, our sovereignty, who we are, our essence as a person, you know, and loving ourselves for everything that we are, not necessarily fixing ourselves, right? Like sometimes I get really triggered now with the word fixing or healing, because I feel like so much of it is maybe morphing who we think we have to be rather than loving who we are. So these goddesses are like so amazing to me, and so supportive. So the fact that she has these like amazing, beautiful golden wings to light up the darkest of caverns is saying she has the ability to go into the subconscious mind and illuminate what we might not be able to see. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So I wrote a ton of notes because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to remember all of this, because she is a minor god. I actually never had heard of her before. She represents and embodies the natural wonder and path for destiny, which makes me even Inanna is a paradox because she really represents like the dark and the light, right? Like of Venus. So Venus would be considered the light, and Inanna is the opposite, and that's the dark of that archetypal energy. And I feel like Iris is the same in a sense. She has the ability to, I know that they're saying that she is working with the mortals to communicate to the gods, but I don't feel like that's actually part of the real story. I think what she is she's the messenger from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind, especially it's the natural wonder and path for destiny. And like our destiny is oftentimes in our subconscious. Like if we are so inundated with society structures on how we're supposed to, live in this world, oftentimes we are not listening to our inner nudges. We're not paying attention to our own destiny, like our own personal destiny. So I really loved what she communicated to me. What was really interesting too is that she was the daughter of Thaumas. I don't know if I'm saying any of these right. Thaumas, a minor sea god associated with wonder and marvels, and Electra, an oceanid nymph, daughter of the Titan Oceanus. So again, the Titan, he was like the OG, at least to me, because that's what I get. You can totally disagree, but I gotta feel it and embrace it, and I really do trust what I get. So the lineage connected to her is both sea and sky, which I really love that, because your subconscious is also connected to your emotions, which is sometimes your inner waters. You know what I mean? There's so many layers to even that, but it's the waters of the body, okay? She's also associated with Mercury, which is a planet of communication. I love that. And obviously the element of air, because that's also communication. It's thoughts. It's ideas, it's innovations, like air, that just like amazes me, right? Which is like, again, represents the natural wonder and the path of destiny. When you're like finding out all this stuff from the subconscious mind, you're bringing it to light, and it turns into ideas, it turns into innovations. You're communicating like, oh, this, I didn't know I was feeling this way, or this is a pattern that I didn't know existed. Okay, I love that. And I also love that we need water typically to be able to see rainbows, even though I think rainbows, apparently that's a thing in science where our eyes will see so many colors, and we don't know how to sometimes organize that. So our eyes will just say, oh, that's white. So like if I'm looking at my computer screen and it's white right now, there's so many other colors, but my brain is like, that's white. And then again, that's like how we create our reality. Do you know what I mean? Like we see what we believe. Okay. I could really go off on a tangent on that as well, but I won't. I'm feeling so much of the energy for Iris, so I'm going to try to like really embody this. She is like a helping guide, and I love that she's present during this time for spring, because there's more of an action. But what she told me, and it was so funny because like how she came to me, I started getting all these downloads with her, and she was like, don't overcomplicate this. Like we want people to work in a very simple way. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And I get that. So like my Substack, I was like, I don't want to overwhelm people with all this information. So let's just kind of give the surface or the basics, and then very simple ways to be working with her. But there's like so much here. And the fact that she's a minor goddess but connected to the sky and the water, for us to see the rainbows, we have to be able to have the what is it? Is it the raindrop, and the light comes through the raindrop and it reflects out and it turns into a rainbow? So just the fact with water and air, you know, we usually see the rainbows in the sky. But the rainbow also acts as a bridge. You know what I mean? Like, we call it the rainbow bridge, and usually we're using that term for heaven and earth, right? Like, oh, my grandfather passed over the rainbow bridge, or my pet passed over the rainbow bridge. But I want to switch that view from something completely, what feels so separated from us, and I want to start viewing it as something that is within us. So I really do believe that the whole concept of heaven is actually what we make our experience to be. And it's not something necessarily outside of us, but actually inside of us. And I really feel like that's what Iris is reminding us, that the bridge that we so often see as external is actually internal, from the subconscious to the conscious mind. And where it got like really interesting is that she started talking about light and plasma and the chakra system. And if you think about our chakra system, that's the rainbow. And how and what healing can happen within that chakra system. And I loved that. She also brought up using rainbow frequencies as a way to connecting with her. So I had looked it up. There are so many amazing videos on YouTube of rainbow frequencies specifically. And I don't know if I can tag the one that I really liked, but if I can, I will figure it out and I will do it. But in Substack, there is a practice for you, and I had recommended using it with the rainbow frequencies because it just felt really powerful. And a simple, like, what comes to mind with each chakra? What is there? What's held there? What memory? What emotion? And how can we work with the rainbow within ourselves, right? So not only is it the bridge to the subconscious to the conscious, but it's also through, like, along our spinal column. And I still feel like there's even more to uncover here, but I think I would need more time to let it sink in. What I really love too is that she avoids conflict, which feels really good for March. I think there's going to be a lot of things that are bubbling to the surface with the eclipse. We don't just stop feeling the things from the eclipse like the next day or, right after it happens. This energy like lingers, and it really takes a minute for us to realize like what's coming up. And so I think March is such a great time where it's like to avoid conflict, because when we are all kind of unconsciously processing our stuff, I think you're quick to react rather than respond. But she also isn't afraid to step in and initiate when needed. And I really liked that. Meaning when she needs something to be done, she's going to do it. And I appreciate that. So I wanted to talk a little bit more too about the plasma. I had gotten down this rabbit hole of feeling like Isis is more than what we think. And what if she isn't just the archetype of, being a messenger, but she's way more than that? What if it's about manifestation? What if it's about how we are creating our reality? And I don't believe that we can truly manifest the reality that we want until we understand what's going on in the subconscious, because the subconscious is where our blocks and patterns happen. And I have this really amazing, I do this amazing reading. I wouldn't even call it a reading, it's a session. It's called The Soul Unraveling. And we really look at we look at some astrology, some human design, and we really look at like themes that are coming up, and we do these practices. I just had one today and it was absolutely incredible where, my client was like, oh, I think I got to the end of this. And I was like, oh, we'll see. And then there were like 5 more things. And my client was completely surprised at the statement that we started with to the root feeling of that and what was actually going on. And we don't know unless we take the time to really work through that. But I think sometimes we can be very logical about our approach and we forget the body. And I feel like that's what also Iris is reminding us. Like, she is the embodiment of natural wonder. And it's like, how can we embody this energy of natural wonder for ourselves? Not through judgment or criticism, but natural wonder of understanding who we are, what makes us tick, what stops us, right? So it got me thinking, and I'm not even sure how it happened, and I'm probably going to fuck up how I say this again, but the toroidal field. And it made me think about that. And, this is like a whole deep dive too that I've done, because this is everything. We have, I'm just going to draw this really quick. We have this, and it's like, wow, this is like really bad, but maybe you can, this is my version of the toroidal field, okay? Like, we as people have this field. Oh my God, you can't even see it. There it is. This field around us, okay? And then I believe that the planet has this, and it runs through, right? These things run through us. It runs through the planet. These energetic fields, the toroidal field, okay? Oh my gosh. You guys are like, I'm dying to see this diagram, okay? And it made me look it up, and I was like, okay, I just was like, do toroidal fields have rainbows? Like, is it, I guess scientifically, does it look like that? And simply the answer is yes and no, right? And it says, a rainbow torus flow is a visual, artistic, and meditative representation of a toroidal field, energy field. And I do believe that when we when we see things in meditative states, or it's an artistic, it means something just because we can't see it. Like, I think we're surrounded by rainbows everywhere. Like, it's because it's plasma. But that doesn't mean that my eyes can pick up on all of that. So it's saying that, yes, it's a meditative representation, a donut-shaped self-sustaining flow found in nature from atoms to galaxies. Okay, and it is depicted by drawing a central axis with vibrant rainbow-colored curved lines spiraling through the core, around and outward, symbolizing continuous, harmonious, and balanced energy, often used to represent the human aura or the cosmos. And then that got me thinking, because when I channeled Mary Magdalene, I think it was in the summer, she gave me the blueprint of existence. And the blueprint of existence is expand, contract, rest. Expand, contract, rest. And she had me bring it down like to something so simple as making a change. When you decide like, oh, I'm going to make a change, like I want to change coffee, you expand. Then there's like, that's an expansion in thought. You might contract because you're like, is it the right coffee? I don't know. Do I like it? Like your contraction is like kind of thinking about, do I like it? Do I not like it? And then your rest is, do you keep the coffee or do you not? Right. And then you have another expansion. So it's like, I mean, that was such a layman's term, and I don't even know if it actually applies, but it feels like it absolutely does apply. So the fact that is the blueprint of existence, which I truly believe, that makes sense to me. We not only experience that in subconscious work, we experience that in like day-to-day living. And so then that got me thinking, do toroidal fields expand and contract? Yes, a toroidal field is generally considered to expand and contract as a part of its fundamental self-organizing and pulsating nature. And that makes you think about like everything vibrates, right? Like everything's like, look at that. It's like my hand is solid, but it doesn't look solid right now. That's like what everything's like, right? Everything looks solid. So the toroidal model often visualizes a donut-shaped self-feeding or breathing vortex represents a dynamic system where energy constantly flows. And it just made me think about, like, what if rainbows are not just pretty in the sky? What if rainbows are portals? What if they are plasma? And I think plasma is everywhere. Plasma to me is the fifth element because back in the day, it was called ether. I think in today's world, we're going to start understanding plasma to be ether. It's if you go like this, that's you're moving your hands through plasma. And that goes down to atoms, you know? It's blowing my mind. What if we use the rainbow as a form of a portal, again, for a place of manifestation, a place to truly manifest our lives? Not only is it a portal to like understand what's going on in our subconscious, in the own rainbow body. You know who else talks about the rainbow body? Thoth. And I know some people think like, he was the guy who like destroyed Atlantis. I don't know. That's not really what I get, but he was brilliant. And the guy had like a lot of different lives. So who knows, who knows what that guy did. But I appreciate what he is talking about and where we can find our freedom in our chakras. I don't know if anybody has ever read the Emerald Tablets, but I have, and although it can be hard to sometimes digest, it's one of those things where you can like read a couple pages, but you kind of have to give it a couple of days to like assimilate into the body and even the mind. But he does talk about these, you know, the chakras being unlocked and how we go about that. And I think that this is, again, another form of that, you know, with Iris. It isn't actually just being the messenger. It's a portal. And again, like I said, how do we really manifest our lives? And manifestation, plasma. If plasma is what makes up our reality and we create our realities, wouldn't we want to know what we want to be able to create it in a way that feels good to us? But how do we know what we want if we don't know who we are and we don't know what we want? That was probably a bit of a ride that I just took you on, but you're welcome. So the rainbow being the portal to the subconscious mind, the energetic body, the chakra system within the body, right? The body's own rainbow system, and plasma, and being able to manifest from that space. So I looked up plasma manifestation involves using the fourth state of matter, and plasma is the fourth state of matter. So it's ionized, highly energetic gas as a conceptual or spiritual tool to shape reality. Often described as a living field of light that responds to focused intention, visualization, and emotional alignment. Emotional alignment. So when we are out of alignment, right, we are physically manifesting that in not being in alignment. But when we are in alignment, right, it bridges. It bridges. What is the rainbow? The bridge. The bridge to heaven and earth. The bridge to the subconscious and conscious mind. It bridges metaphysical concepts with physical reality, viewing plasma as a foundational creative energy. 99% of visible matter. 99% of visible matter. That can be directed to materialize goals, similar to how what is it? Ectoplasm, which anytime I hear ectoplasm, I think of Ghostbusters, because I'm pretty sure they use the term ectoplasm to describe what ghosts were. And it really is true. Like, I'm understanding now from I didn't understand the word plasma or what it meant, but now it's giving me words to be able to clearly explain what I have channeled for a very long time. And that might be a whole other video. But so similar to how ectoplasm provides form to thought in certain spiritual practices. So I just found that so freaking fascinating. And each spectrum of light, they call the rainbow like the light spectrum. Each spectrum of light has different frequencies within it, which would make sense because in our body, in our chakra system, we have different frequencies, right? Like in healing modalities, you use different frequencies to reach that area, right? So it just is really fascinating to me. I feel like Iris is here as a messenger, but totally blew the lid for me on how. And I don't know if I talked about it in my first video, but I have been channeling, I was just saying an alien for like the longest time. Her name is Celeste. I've been channeling her for almost 10 years. She's been absolutely amazing, 100% on everything that she's given me. And she never had a form. She was like this, well, no, I shouldn't say that. She wasn't solid. And she didn't like have a face, but she was like this magenta, like humanoid looking, maybe with an elongated head, humanoid figure, but nothing solid. Like I could see through her. And I just kind of always called her a light being. But now that I'm really understanding plasma, she's plasma. And it's just like blowing my mind having these, these connections like come in and make sense. I feel very validated. So anyway, I know that I probably don't always make sense, but that's okay because I'm sharing my own journey too and what I am getting personally and what I find so fascinating and so exciting. So Iris is here, not just, again, like I said, she blew the top off for me. Like, I'm like, oh, this like pretty little goddess is here. And she's like, yeah, I am. But also, this is how fucking awesome I am. And it's like this archetype, like, it's kind of like when people are like, oh, this is an angel, but you actually see the paintings or the artwork of people who saw angels and it's like 1,000,000 eyeballs and light. It almost reminds me of that. Like Iris came to us and we had to give her form, right? We had to, and what if her form was actually metaphorical? Like, what if that wasn't actually her form? Do you know what I mean? What if she didn't have these huge golden wings? What if that was just representation of illumination, right? And the rainbow wasn't just the chakra system, but a reminder of plasma, and we are the creators of our reality. I hope you're following because it's just blowing my mind, and I'm so excited. And I mean, I could like totally nerd out on this, but I feel like sometimes I do it to my detriment. But I think this is enough. I feel like I've gone down this rabbit hole, and this feels like very potent to me. This feels very alive and like a breathing system right now. And so what I want to do, now that you know her origin story, who her parents were, what she did, what I believe the real story is, Let's find out what she actually has to say. Even though I got all that information from her, let's just see what she's saying. I feel like I wanted to use... I won't be able to get to them right now. Okay. So let's see. What does Iris have to say? Well, the first card on the bottom is guidance. So yes, ma'am. What else? Insight. Okay. I mean, these are like very basic cards, but I'm loving that. So guidance and insight. That's what she's here for. I feel like a broken record, to be honest. And the work that I've been doing and that has been evolving over time, like I really just started out doing readings for people with their, passed over loved ones. And then I really started going into so much more through my own work of nervous system care. And so, because when I started channeling too, I could not handle the amount of energy that was coming into my body, so I would disassociate. So, and Magdalene and Celeste both told me, like when I would meditate or get Reiki, I would disassociate. I would like go somewhere else. And for the longest time, they said, you need to stay in your body. You need to focus on the body sensations. It was like a coping mechanism. Even though I would go on these like amazing journeys, it wasn't safe to stay in my body. So I had to really work on creating a safe space for my body and being in the body. So doing all of this work, working with my subconscious, really figuring out what my blocks were, this was such an opportunity that I was like, I don't want to just channel passed over loved ones. I want to help people remember who they are through this type of work. And the goddesses have always been with me, and it's just opening up so much more and so much more and so much more. But the thing is that so many people turn away from it because they don't know what's going to come up, or they don't know what they're like. What if it's something I don't want to do and see? And like, that's really part of the journey, right? Like, it really is being able to see ourselves without judgment, and really to be able to see ourselves with love. And it's just been really interesting to see where my readings were almost 10 years ago to where they are today. So it doesn't surprise me. Very basic. She's here for guidance and insight. I'm going to use, I think her name's Rebecca. Yeah, Rebecca Campbell. I really love her one deck. It's called the Starseed Oracle. But let's see. I feel like I have another cough coming. Let's see what Iris has to say. What are your messages for us right now, Iris, with everything that we're going through for the month of March? You made your presence really known for that time period. I really like this. It says earthed, learning how to be human in the world but not of it. And it's kind of like what I said about in the beginning, for the energies of March was to not force or overcome the chaos, but to not let it take you down, to find balance and peace within it. This also feels really beautiful because for the month of March, I think it was the 5 of Swords. And anytime I get 5s in the tarot deck, it's automatically like temporary discomfort, temporary uncomfortableness. And this is like, none of this matters. And I think that there's so much going on in the world that it's very easy for us to get swept up in the chaos and lose ourselves and lose the sight of what we want and our dreams and our manifestations. I think that there's this very strong thread in the collective of nothing is ever going to get better, and we're all going to be here to suffer, and we have to suffer. And like, Iris is saying, none of this matters, zoom out, common ground. And this feels like not only on the collective, but the internal, right? Like sometimes our own struggles, which is so interesting because the reading that I had today, the session that we did, the unraveling, we did a meditation and I said, where do you like to be? Like, do you like to be outside or in the mountains, in the woods, or in the beach, or like, where do you like in the desert, somewhere tropical? And my client said, I want to be in the sky. And it was just so fascinating because after that meditation, it was the same thing, like zoom out. You zoom out so far and you go, wow, that actually doesn't matter. I'm just making more chaos by kind of like bringing that up. And I feel like sometimes, how do I want to say this? I think we get hung up on the things. How did I want to say this? I think we get hung up on the things that stop us. And we don't allow ourselves to go into the subconscious mind. Because look at this card, right? Like you zoom out so far and you see how little Earth is. This is the void to me, right? Which is the subconscious. This is where like all possibility is. And the common ground is also the bridge, right? Because you're kind of bridging chaos and peace, right? That's the common ground. Then we have the 7 star sisters. So this is birthing creations, tapestry of life, and expression, which is exactly what Iris is getting us to do, right? She, in the void, that's not only the things that are stopping us, these blocks, these judgments that we have about ourselves, but it's also the place where our dreams live. And are we willing? See, that's the other thing. You know, you could go, oh, I don't want to know what's in my subconscious mind for like, you know, maybe these patterns that are controlling my life. But I also don't want to go in my subconscious because my dreams are there and I would have to change or alter my reality to create that, to claim that. And that's what I want to say, claim it. Like you have to claim that for yourself, right? And that is a journey within itself. So it's like tapestry of life, like, oh, the tapestry of life, man, right? It is actually so beautiful, twisted, wild, up and down, bright colors, dark colors, but like beautiful. And you know, Iris is really trying to get you to come back to your true expression. And so how do you do that? And you know, that is, you might find that out just by working with Iris yourself. I mean, I love that. I love that. Let's see if this one's turned over. That one says defenselessness, writing past wrongs, and uprooting. And I kind of like that because like it's got this whole plasma like coming from the roots up. So this could be like the chakra system, the spinal cord. I was just told, let me look this up. I have a friend who does cranial sacral therapy, and she's like, oh, cerebral spinal fluid is plasma. There are so many types of plasma, but that's what's so crazy is like, how do we use the inner plasma to engage with the outer plasma? That's the bridge, right? Like that's the freaking bridge. And if we don't know what's going on in the inner plasma, then how do we really know what we're creating on the external plasma, right? Like you don't know what you don't know. Okay, so this is like defenselessness. Like this is kind of like putting your sword down and being willing to go in the cavern, right? Writing past wrongs. It's looking at yourself without judgment. To me, this is like, I mean, you could write past wrongs, but energetically speaking, this is like looking back at the things that you might like, oh, I didn't like how I treated that person in 4th grade. And now that I like energetically, forgiving yourself for that time and being able to love yourself now. And this is uprooting. So it's like uprooting the old and starting fresh with the new. Again, like the subconscious mind, right? We can kind of wipe the slate clean and start fresh with new stories. I don't want this to be super long, but I feel like my message was pretty clear in a chaotic way. Because that's me, chaos. Just go with it. Just let that one slide. I'd love to hear like what you think. Like what are your thoughts about plasma? What are your thoughts about like the inner plasma and the outer plasma and the inner rainbow and the outer rainbow and it being a portal and the chakra system and Iris not just being like this messenger on a rainbow with these golden wings, but like something so much more, like illuminating the darkness. And maybe herself was actually plasma, but the description of her, like the form that she has been given, was a metaphor for what she is and stands for. I'd love to know what you think, because I'm open to other ideas. But I also really love what I have channeled from her, and I love her messages. So just to recap, like learning how to be human. Don't let this world mold you, shape you, right? Very similar to what Ainana was saying. Like, don't let them put you in a cage, right? You are in the world, but not of it. Like, there is an essence. And I love this picture. Like, look at that. She's actually, the card actually has like a very pastel rainbow vibe to it. And then she's encased in this like crystallized plasma. Really love that. Okay. So then we've got zoom out. Be willing to zoom out for maybe like what's stopping you. Be willing to go into the void, but also the common ground, right? So the bridge.